Okay, all right. Hi, hello, good afternoon, and namaskar to everyone. As said by the father of the nation, Gandhiji, live as if you were to die tomorrow. Earn as if you were to live forever. I, Paras Pradhan, as the founder and the president of the Law Scholar Independent Society, present with the second day of our national webinar on environment protection law in Indian and at global context. As yesterday we saw and learned the basic meaning of the environment, some concept of ecology, concept of wildlife, and the most important, EP Act and the details about the Rio Convention by our expert from the science and the technology, Dr. Saurabh Kumar sir, and expert from the legal studies, Dr. Anuradha Yadav ma'am. Now, in today's second part of the webinar, हम आज जानेंगे some of the concept regarding the Epidemic Disease Act and the more scientific legal concept behind today's scenario. So without taking so much time, I would like to call Mr. Syed Qasim Ali sir, PG in Legal Studies, a well-known academician and lawyer. We welcome you, sir. And now over to you, sir.
Thank you, Paras. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
To the Epidemic Disease Act 1897, I would like to, you know, give you information regarding some of the environmental act. Recently, we just, observed World Environment Day that was on June 5, 2020. It was hosted by Colombia, and it has been hosted since the year 1974. The theme for 2020 was time for nature, and the WNO has clearly said that we shall focus on essential infrastructure that supports life on earth and human development. So हमें उन चीजों पे फोकस करना चाहिए जो कि अर्थ के ऊपर लाइफ को बढ़ावा दें और हमारे ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट को एनहांस करें, इंक्रीज करें. All right. So then comes the international environmental law. Abhi, I am taking up the on at global context perspective of environmental law. There is an international environmental law. It is a branch of public international law, as we all know. It is basically created to control the pollution, and in that there has been a United Nation Environment Program in which there were various declarations, there were various treaties. Some of them were discussed yesterday. I won't be discussing that in detail today, but yes, I would be only giving you out the outlay that this UNEP, United Nation Environment Program, has 193 members from all over the globe. And it has various declarations like Stockholm Declaration that was in the year 1972. And the main objective of Stockholm Declaration was to, what is the human element in pollution, and how such pollution can be controlled. And thereafter there comes the Rio Declaration, and there we had Paris Agreement, Kyoto Protocol, and various others that are being going on these days as well. Now, one thing I would like to hear, state that the basic difference between Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement is that in Paris Agreement, what happened? The targets were not set up by any agreement. It was left on the countries. It was left on the countries individually that they can set out their targets. For suppose, if we talk about India has set up a target by 2030, we will be decreasing our carbon emissions, or we will be, decreasing our greenhouse gas emissions. Whereas in case of Kyoto Protocol, it was a universal target that has been fixed by this international organization and that every country has to observe. So this was a little bit brief about the environment in the global context. Now coming out on the environment at the Indian context. So obviously, we're here. We have to link the environment and the law, how the law comes into picture with the environment. So very thanks to the framers of the constitution discussed by Dr. Anuradha ma'am, to the various articles and provisions that are being included in the Constitution of India that relates to the environment. So first of all, I would like to talk about Article 21, that is the fundamental right, which which says right to life and personal liberty. So right to life in itself is so much broader, is so much vast, that it has also included right to live in a clean environment. And again, it was included in Charan Lal Sahu's case, where it was reiterated by Supreme Court that right to life includes a right to wholesome environment. Wholesome means a clean environment. Whatever the factors available in the environment, we must enjoy that in that very manner in which they have been found in that particular nature. Okay, now obviously we are also aware about the recent case, that was the Vizag gas leak, in which the LG Polymers was fined up to rupees 50 crore as a compensation for taking up the life of 12 human beings. Obviously, the case has been pending in the Supreme Court yet, so there might be anything additional related to the environmental law, related to the right to life, that will be comprising a human or the environmental element that will be included in that. Now, moving further, obviously we do have again that directive principles of state policy, having Article 48A. Then we do have fundamental duties related to cleaning and providing protection to the environment, that is under Article 51A subclause G. So all these articles were discussed yesterday in itself. Now, one thing more here, I would like to discuss how we get the power to make a law on the environment. These were the fundamental rights, these were the duties or the rights that are being imposed on the people. But from where the Environment Protection Law came? What is the source of that? So basically, Environment Protection Law, protection of forest, and each and everything that is inclusive of the environment, they are in the concurrent list of Schedule 7. Concurrent list is a list where all the subject matters are being enlisted, in which the state as well as the center have the power to make laws. Obviously, they are subject to the repugnancy clauses under Article 251 and 254. So, entry number 17A and entry number 17B of the concurrent list, that is of Schedule 7, that gives us the power to make the laws on the environment. That is, as well as the states can make the laws, as well as the center can make up the laws. Now, moving on to the Epidemic Disease Act 1897 and its relevance today. Now, obviously, before that, we must know that epidemic, or the word pandemic, it has been declared by the WHO on 11th of February 2020, that this disease, this COVID-19 disease, is a pandemic. That was declared by WHO on 11th of February 2020. Moving on to the Pandemic Disease Act 1897, obviously it is a very much old act, and it had only 4 sections, I guess. Let me just check it out with that. Yes, it had only 4 sections, and it was very loosely drafted. There was nothing so much related to the offenses or the penalty. There was only one penalty, that if anybody is disobediencing the public servant, then that punishment to be taken from the Indian Penal Code. That is, he will be charged under Section 188 of Indian Penal Code. That only gives the punishment of approximately 1 month of imprisonment and 200 rupees of fine, or both, you can say. So I think this is a very negligible kind of punishment for doing such a heinous act. I would say a heinous act, as present pandemic conditions are are going out of our control, are out of our hands, because the things we are incapable of following the government instructions, the government orders. So obviously it is a heinous crime, and it requires various definitions that are to be included in that. It also requires a very hefty amount of fines, as well as the punishments that are being required. So with this, I would like to bring some of the wordings of from various schools of the jurisprudence, like historical and sociological school of the jurisprudence. They were of the view that law and society goes hand in hand. As the society changes, the law has to change. If we are failed to change the law with the changing society, we are not a welfare country, as being mentioned in the preamble of the Constitution of India. So as the society changes, we have to change the law. So as the pandemic conditions arose, as the problems were facing by that, as the people were not listening to the public authorities and were violating, sheerly violating the directions and orders of the government, that is why there was a need. And on 22nd of April, Epidemic Disease Amendment Ordinance Act 2020 came into force, and it was through the power of the president under Article 123. That is when the uh, parliament is not in session, then the president can, on the aid and advisories of the prime minister, can bring out this ordinances. So in this changed law, this amended law, now there are various definitions have been included. For suppose there's a definition of harm, there's a definition of injury, there's a definition of obstruction, there's a definition of act of violence, and many other definitions. I cannot go deep into that because that will be taking too much of time. I will be picking out some of the important things. So now the punishment in this act have been increased. That was the need of the act. So it says whoever abates or causes damages to the property, or whoever violates the any of the acts of this Pandemic Disease Act will be fined up to rupees 2 lakhs. So now the fine has been increased, and the minimum amount the fine, if anybody violates the provision of this act, the minimum fine he has to pay is 50,000 rupees, and it can extend to 2 lakh rupees. Okay, so from 50,000 to 2 lakh, it is a very much hefty amount. And obviously, in addition to this, there is also an imprisonment that may extend to 5 years. That is, minimum is 3 months and maximum is the 5 years. Okay, now obviously, while committing an act against any public healthcare worker, recently we followed the news in which the public health workers are being attacked. Okay, so if any public health worker is being attacked, so Section 320 IPC, which says regarding the offense of the grievous hurt, that is to be included in this. And in that case, the fine as well as the punishment gets aggravated in that case. Okay. Now, last thing in this, that is the Pandemic Disease Act that has been amended. The presumption, I would like to here, for suppose, um, the presumption of innocence, the presumption of guilty mind. Okay, so here the presumption of innocence is rebutted at all. That means what happens whenever a person is charged with any of the offenses, it is being presumed, कोर्ट ये मान के चलता है कि वो बेगुनाह है जब तक कि उसके अगेंस्ट में कोई क्राइम पूरा का पूरा कंप्लीट ट्रायल ना पूरा हो जाए, वो क्राइम उसके उस फेवर में प्रूफ ना हो जाए. बट यहाँ पर हम ये मान के चलते हैं कि उसने वो क्राइम करा है, और अगर वो प्रूफ कर देता है कि मैंने वो क्राइम नहीं करा है, ठीक है, तब उसको जो है हम वो भी बियॉन्ड रीजनेबल डाउट उसको प्रूफ करना पड़ेगा, तब उसका जो है कन्विक्शन नहीं होगा इसके अंदर. एल्स अगर थोड़ा सा भी रीजनेबल डाउट है, थोड़ी सी भी गुंजाइश है कि हमें अगर लग रहा है, कोर्ट को लग रहा है कि हाँ इसने ये ऑफेंस करा होगा, ठीक है, तो प्रिजम्पशन ऑफ इनोसेंस का बेनिफिट इसको नहीं दिया जाएगा. नाउ अब यहाँ पे इस बात को समझो तुम लोग कि ये वाला जो प्रिंसिपल है, रिबटिंग द प्रिजम्पशन ऑफ इनोसेंस, ये वाला कॉन्सेप्ट बहुत ज्यादा हेनियस क्राइम्स में इंक्लूड करा जाता है, जैसे कि अनलॉफुल एक्टिविटीज एंड प्रिवेंशन एक्ट के अंदर, एनडीपीएस एक्ट के अंदर, और दूसरे एक्ट के अंदर विच आर बीइंग रिलेटेड टू दी टेररिस्ट एक्टिविटीज एंड ऑल दोस काइंड ऑफ स्टफ्स. Okay, one more thing that is being included in this, new act, that is the compensation for act of violence. Obviously, he has to pay the fine that is being given to the court or to the state government directly. But यहाँ पर compensation for the act of violence, अगर आप किसी की property damage करते हो या किसी को आप नुकसान पहुंचाते हो, obviously a public servant or a public health worker, तो उस case में भी आपको उसको kuch compensatory amount as fixed by the court. You have to pay that. Okay, so this was all about the Pandemic Disease Act. One thing I would also bring to your information, that is, we already have the sections in IPC, Section 277 and Section 278, which says fouling of water in public spring or making atmosphere noxious to health. ठीक है, बट इसके अंदर की पनिशमेंट्स भी बहुत ज्यादा कम है. इट मे एक्सटेंड टू 3 months और 500 rupees or both, or in the case of 278 it may extend to 500 rupees fine only. So obviously इन sections को भी amend करने की जरूरत है, because अब यहाँ पे social solidarity का concept एक आता है, because no one can live its life on by his own self. He will be requiring the help of the nature, he will be requiring the help of the environment, he will be requiring the help of the other persons, okay, to live in an efficient manner. That is why these sections are also needed to be amended, and they are to be put into the heinous crime categories. All right, that's all for today. Thank you so much, Paris.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a explanatory, a brief discussion on the protection of environment at a legal perspective. Now, half of the session is over now, and for the further discussion, I would like to call Dr. Asaf Malik, sir, alumni of Jamia Millia Islamia and Aligarh Muslim University, head professor of legal studies. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Paras, and your team, first of all, for the organization of this kind of webinar regarding the protection of environment at the national or as well as in the international level. And again, thank you, Mr. Syed Qasim Ali, sir. They have basically brief regarding the environmental protection, pandemic disease, or just like that. And also I would like to thank yesterday's speaker, Dr. Anuradha or Saurabh, I think, sir. Now, because my focus just only the judiciary, the role of the judiciary for the protection of the environment and today's session. First of all, we would like to talk about regarding the historical background, only just brief. Since the independence, Indian policy makers basically have attempted to address environmental problems by passing the number of rules and regulations as per the vision of the Constitution of India. And in this response to requirement of that kind of time, जैसी जैसी रिक्वायरमेंट हुई टाइम की, वैसे वैसे जो पॉलिसी मेकर्स थे उन्होंने बहुत सारे रूल्स और रेगुलेशंस बनाए रिगार्डिंग द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ द environment. But the thing is that, however, due to the dominant poverty and the development compulsion of the nation, environment and its protection was not the priority of the government. क्योंकि बहुत ज्यादा गरीबी थी, इसलिए हमारा मेन फोकस था कंट्री को डेवलप करने का, अपार्ट फ्रॉम द इन्वायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन. ठीक है. एंड देन this kind of situation basically end in 1960, but 1972 Stockholm Conference on the Human Environment brought a noticeable shift in India approach to the environmental issues, and the conference proved to be turning point in India's observation on environmental facilities and the creation of the National Committee on Environmental Planning and Coordination in 1972. This committee basically triggered a rise in environmental legislation, and later on the beginning with the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1972. And now after the enforcement of the Constitution, we would like to talk about only just two sentences. The preamble of the Constitution basically begins by stating that the people of India solemnly resolved to constitute India into a socialist country, and this indicates that our constitution afford us with the socialist pattern of the society, and thus aiming at dealing with and solving social problem first, rather than concentrating on individual problems. And the environmental or the protection of environmental basically is regarding the social issue, or that is the protection of the society. And there are number of legislations passed by the United States of America. That is, first is EPA, Environmental Protection Act, and second one is 1970 CAA, Clean Air Act. Now, Sayyid Qasim Ali sir talking about some remedies under the Indian Penal Code, and now I am also talking about the criminal remedies are provided under section 133 to 144 of the criminal procedure regarding nuisance or etc. And section 268 of the Indian Penal Code, 269 and 277 or 278 talks about the regarding these kinds of situation by the Sayyid Qasim Ali sir. There are only one sections provide the remedy that is mentioned in the Environmental Protection Act 1986, that is 19, section 19, and one section in Civil Procedure Code, section 91 of the Civil Procedure Code provides for the civil remedies regarding the violation of the environment. And now, basically the concept of environment is developed in the judiciary by the PIL concept, public interest litigation concept. And the concept of PIL basically we have taken by the Gideon Wainwright 1963 case from the United States of American Supreme Court. And in the judge's asset, or you can say in India, in the judge's asset case, and that case known as the SP Gupta versus Union of India. In this case, the court held that a letter written by public spirited person, it would be treated as a petition, because SP Gupta में सिंपली कोर्ट ने ये कहा था कि अगर पोस्ट कार्ड आपने कोर्ट को लिखा, एक पोस्ट कार्ड जो पहले आते थे, पोस्ट कार्ड पे अगर आपने चिट्ठी लिख के कोर्ट को डाली है, दैट मीन्स दैट इज ए पिटीशन, दैट इज ए PIL. मीन्स जो कॉन्सेप्ट हमारे यहाँ डेवलप हुआ है PIL का, वो SP गुप्ता से ही हुआ है. एंड now PIL is rightly called the brainchild of Justice Krishna Iyer or Justice Bhagwati, and the apex code basically opined in Bandhua Mukti Morcha AIR 1992 Supreme Court. In that case, Article 32 of the Constitution, alongside empowering, basically Article 32 provides the remedies or constitutional remedies, and empowering it to issue writs and directions also authorized it to forge new remedies and strategies. And after 1990s, the environmental movement in India was virtually controlled under the guidance of Justice Kuldeep Singh. We all are aware regarding Justice Kuldeep Singh, and who liberally imported the public interest litigation jurisprudence into the environmental spheres. Now, the judicial recognition of environmental jurisprudence in the backdrop of industrialization reached its peak with the pronouncement of the Supreme Court judgment that the right to wholesome environment is a part of the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, because no one shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty except according due process of law as well as procedure established by law. And the first case is known as, or you can say regarding the environmental protection, is a Rural Litigation and Entitlement Kendra versus State of UP, AIR 1985 Supreme Court. That was the first case where the Supreme Court made an attempt to look into the problems between environment and the development. And the case concerned limestone mining in regarding the Doon Valley. We all are aware regarding the Doon Valley, which was causing ecological imbalance and health hazards. And if we are talking about the environment, then we all are basically, we are not forget the name, that is डॉक्टर MC मेहता। हम सब जानते हैं, अगर हम इन्वायरमेंट की बात करते हैं तो हम सब के माइंड में MC मेहता का नाम आएगा, जो जो एक एडवोकेट रहे, जिन्होंने बेसिकली उन्होंने ही ये कॉन्सेप्ट जो है डेवलप किया है इंडिया में। MC मेहता केसेस डिसाइडेड सब्सिक्वेंटली बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट इनडायरेक्टली अप्रूव्स द राइट टू हेल्दी एनवायरनमेंट। एंड नाउ in Subhash Kumar versus State of Bihar, AIR 1991 Supreme Court. In this case, basically, the Supreme Court clearly held that the enjoyment of pollution-free air, water, that is the part of the right to life. And if we are talking about the Murli S. Deora case, जो कल डिस्कशन हुआ उस केस का, बेसिकली मुरली एस जोरा केस रिलेटेड टू द बैन ऑन द स्मोकिंग इन द पब्लिक प्लेस। आप पब्लिक प्लेस में स्मोकिंग को बैन किया है, बाकी जगह पे वो अलाउ है। अगर आप अपने घर में हैं, अपने अलग कमरे में हैं, आप स्मोक कर सकते हैं। दैट इज ऑल्सो द वायलेशन ऑफ द इन्वायरमेंट। लेकिन सुभाष कुमार और मुरली एस दोरा का जो केस है वो आपस में कंट्राडिक्ट है। क्यों? सुभाष कुमार के केस में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा राइट टू लाइफ इंक्लूड द राइट of enjoyment of pollution free water and air for full enjoyment of life. And various high court across in India declared the right to a clean environment was included in the right to life under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. And the next case in the judiciary is known as the Damodar Rao versus SO Municipal Corporation Hyderabad. Damodar Rao versus SO Municipal Corporation Hyderabad, AIR 1987, Andhra Pradesh. In this case, or that is a landmark case in this regard, and courts in India have slowly but gradually enlarged the scope of the right to environment. And that kind of right is not specifically mentioned in the Indian Constitution, but it is a part of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. And the next case passed by the judiciary, that is Vellore Citizen Welfare Forum versus Union of India, AIR 1996 Supreme Court. In this case, Justice Kuldeep Singh stated that in a view of constitutional and statutory provisions, the precautionary principles and polluters pays principle are part of the environmental law of our country. If any kind of government or authority or the construction company violate these kinds of principles, that means it is the violation of right to life and the personal liberty. And now again MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath, MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath, AIR 1997 Supreme Court. In this case, the Supreme Court made public trust doctrine a part of the law of the land. And this doctrine enjoined upon the government to protect the resources for the enjoyment of the general public. And how much time?
Sir, 7 minutes, approx 5 minutes.
5 minutes remaining. And next case is known as the Indian Council for Enviro Legal Action versus Union of India 1996 5 SCC. This case basically stated that even though it is not the function of the court to see the day-to-day enforcement of the law, the failure of the enforcement agencies to implement the law to protect the fundamental rights and necessitated judicial activism. And now with the retirement, ये कहानी जो थी अब तक की, ये कुलदीप सिंह जब तक जज रहते तब तक थी. एंड आफ्टर दैट, और यू कैन से विद द रिटायरमेंट ऑफ द जस्टिस कुलदीप सिंह, द डायनामिज्म हैज आल्सो सब्सटेंशियली रिड्यूस्ड रिगार्डिंग द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ द एनवायरनमेंट. Though the Supreme Court, with its all good intentions, has tried to strike a balance between the development and the protection of the environment. दोनों को लेके सुप्रीम कोर्ट कंसर्न था, एक तो डेवलपमेंट को लेके भी और दूसरा हम प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एनवायरमेंट. इन सेवरल डिसीजंस इट हैज फेल्ड टू डिलीवर द आइडियल्स it conceived, like the ND Jayal versus Union of India, Andy Jayal versus Union of India AIR 2004, and that is very famous case known as the Narmada Bachao Andolan versus Union of India AIR 2000 are the best examples of this failure. जस्टिस कुलदीप सिंह के बाद ये दो केस जब आए थे तो इसमें टोटली जो है जुडिशरी फेल हो चुकी इन्वायरमेंट को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए. एंड नाउ अगेन दैट इज सम रिसेंट केसेस. First of all, in Sunil Kumar versus Secretary, Ministry of Environment and Forest, New Delhi, 2014. In this case, the appellant were residing in the project area of the developers named Miss Priyali and builders situation in Bombay. Priyali builders were carrying out their work for the development in the Sillam area of Bombay. An appeal petition, or you can say a petition, was filed by the appellant and challenging on the ground that the environmental clearance. क्योंकि जब भी कहीं पे भी जो भी कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी लगेगी, चाहे वो सिलम एरिया में हो चाहे कहीं पे भी हो, कहीं ना कहीं इन्वायरमेंट जो है वो आपका जो भी जो क्लीन इन्वायरमेंट होगा वो आपको नहीं मिलेगा, वो वायलेशन होना ही होना है. And the decision given by the National Green Tribunal was in favor of the appellant, and in the case by stating that gradual increase in the construction industry in Bombay and resulted in the infringement of environmental laws. And now the last case, but not the least, in Raja Muzaffar Bhatt versus Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, and this case decided on 8 July 2020. That is a recent case. Basically इसी महीने का केस है ये, 8 जुलाई को डिसाइड किया है. In this case, the National Green Tribunal has directed the State Pollution Control Board and collector of Baramulla district to submit an action taken a report with regard to the dumping of municipal solid waste in Buller Lake. जितना भी जो वेस्ट मटेरियल होता था वो बुलर लेक में फेंक दिया जाता था. इसीलिए एक बेसिकली चेयरमैन है जो राजा मुजफ्फर, जो मैंने आपको नाम लिया है, ये चेयरमैन है जम्मू कश्मीर आरटीआई मूवमेंट का, ठीक है. इसी ने एक एप्लीकेशन फाइल की थी थ्रू दी मेल इन दिस केस. एंड दैट केस बेसिकली now till date that case decided by the National Green Tribunal and clearly says that kind of lake from which the waste material basically through in the lake, one of the largest freshwater lake in Asia and located in the Baramulla district of the Union Territory, Jammu and Kashmir. And the quorum of the case is the chairperson Adarsh Kumar Goyal, Justice S.P. Bangri, Dr. Satyam Singh Garyal, Dr. Nagin Naga was hearing an original application, and next date basically provided for the hearing as that is a 15th October 2000. अभी ये केस पेंडिंग में है बेसिकली. अभी ये ओरिजिनल पिटीशन इन्हीं लोगों ने डिसाइड किया है. नेक्स्ट जो हियरिंग होगी इस केस की वो 15 अक्टूबर 2020 को होनी है. एंड there are number of judgment passed by the judiciary, and some of them basically we have learned today's session. And thank you so much, Paras, and your team again.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for delivering us such a class of lessons to all of us for our determination and determining purpose of the legal studies standards. Now, at the last, we just request to all the participants that please tune with us on the WhatsApp group also, and the certificates will be sent it to you on your email IDs or on the WhatsApp group. And the last, you can stay tuned with us on our website, on our YouTube and Instagram channel by subscribing it for more query and suggestion for more updates. And at last, be safe, healthy, protect yourself and your family, follow the instruction of the government, and be safe, be tuned with us. And for more discussions, debate, and seminars and webinars, stay tuned with us. So thank you. Thank you so much to all the experts, Malik sir, Qasim sir. Thank you to all the members, Weber, Prerna, and other members. Thank you to all the participants. That's all from our side. And Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.